Greetings, technology enthusiasts. I am Chandrahas and I am delighted to be here with you representing CyberBrainer. Do you not believe that the technology sector is advancing at an unprecedented rate, making this an opportune moment to acquire the skills that will facilitate your progress? With CyberBrainer, we are empowering you to take control of your own future. At CyberBrainer, we do not merely impart your interests. We assert that information is power, yet it is the application of knowledge that distinguishes you. Our courses are meant to equip you with essential skills, whether you are pursuing data science, understanding artificial intelligence, or delving into cybersecurity. Let us commence the session and seize the future today. Thank you. Let's examine Guidewire, a cutting-edge insurance program and its uses for accelerating insurance processes.
The first entities would be the first entity, which is considered to be the main entity for a claim center is claim entity claim.x. This is a top-level entity. Whenever a person has met with some mishappening, or suppose, let us take an example of first person, lot of if the car has met with an accident. The user will approach the customer service representative and place accident has been occurred. This is my policy number and I want to claim my policy like this, and these are the damages which has happened to my car. What CSRC customer service representative will do? It will open the claim center. Whatever information the user has been given, it will feed in those information in the claim center somewhere, where the place where the customer service representative is feeding the data in the claim center. We call it as a first notice of loss. This is first notice of loss or FNL. Now going forward, we will say that when the CSAR creates an FL, when the CSAR creates an FNOL, it has to feed in the customer data, the claim data, the injuries and the damages that have been occurred. What is the policy number of the particular means for which you are filing the claim? There are certain steps of the FNOL, like screen 1, there you need to provide the details of the policy. Screen 2, you need to provide the details of the risks, the damages. Screen 3, you need to create some activities in that particular claim. After you have it taken through all the screens at last, you will click on the Finish button. When you click on the Finish button, this data which you have given, this will be processed as a transaction, which we have learnt in the transaction section, bundle section. The entire data will be processed as a complete transaction, as a only single transaction, and it will be saved as a database in the claim entity. The entire data is saved in the database. Whichever you have given, it is saved inside the claim entity. The FTIL screens are provided in Guidewire. Yes, it comes in the out of the box. I will show you the screen also. Let us say if we are having the mobile application and the user is, the customer is submitting that data, it will not be the Guidewire screens, right? It will be at the, their own customized application that might be integrating with Guidewire. Yes, then in that place the front end portal would be just to get the information. It will send the information to the backend of the Guidewire in the JSON or XML format, and Guidewire will create a claim or create an FNOL of its own, and it will save all that data which has been coming from the front end system in the claim entity. Whenever this process is finished, whenever the creation of the FNOL process is finished, once the process is finished, a claim is generated with a claim number. Because we are saving the entire data in the claim entity, we have an object of the claim readily available in the database. and it will automatically generate a claim number and associate it with that particular object of the case, that we can reference that particular claim for further reference. We can have a unique identification number. We call it as a claim number. Now claim is the main entity, and it is not like all the things are being saved in the claim. Some of the data which is coming from the front end portal or which is hidden by the customer services representative in the FNL. Those might also be stored in the entities which are the foreign key to the claim entity. Some things might be stored which are the array key to the claim entities, but the root entity is the claim. That is what we are talking about here. A claim can have one or many contacts involved. It can be in the contacts. It can be the person who driver. It can be the customer service representative who has taken the claim right, who has created FNOL. In this case, I am not talking about the front-end application. I am talking about the regular by phone call. Someone has created the claim. The CSAR has created the claim for the person. That scenario. CSAR guy would be the one. The third party liability. Suppose that due to your car accident, someone else got injured. Not you, not the second might be. Someone from the second party got injured because of the mistake done by you. That party will also be a contact. There is a contact entity which can have one-to-many relationship with the claim. And each contact can have multiple roles. Like suppose this when I'm talking about roles. Roles can be this can be claimant, it can be the payer. It can be the customer service representative. These are the roles. Which are assigned to these contacts. While creating contact, I need to specify the role also. What is the significance of that particular contact? After this, there is one more entity incident, which is what is the incident entity. I'll tell you, incident generally stores the data about the damages done. Whatever damages has been done on that particular claim, right, it will have one-to-many relationships with the claim entity. One claim can have multiple incidents. You can see here the carbonate has damaged. The person has been injured. And your car got collided with some building and building also set on fire. These are all the incidents, but these are the damages. You can specify as many as incidents you want. Then there is an exposure. I'll tell you about the exposure in a while. Suppose we want to track these incidents, that for each of these incidents we want to track that for each of these incidents, the payments has been done to the claimant. And smoothly, and all the activities related to this incident has been taken care. For that purpose, we will have exposure. There is an entity of exposure. Why we have? There is no physical relevance of this exposure, but we create these exposures that we can track the payments to the claimant. These entities are used just for tracking purposes because exposures has its own statuses as well. What we can do is we can assign the incident to the exposure and we can assign the checks to the exposure. One exposure can be assigned to multiple incidents. Suppose we want to group these two incidents and we want to create a one exposure. Incidents are 2, damages are 2, but we want to track it as only a single exposure, means on a single basis. I want to track it down. I don't want to break it, and then I want to investigate. I want to club these two incidents, and then I want to create a check for these two incidents together. That's why multiple incidents can be created to a single exposure. The exposures entities are created just for the tracking purposes, from incidents to the claims, SARI to the payment. Each exposure would have reserved lines associated with it. Let me show you the reserved lines. You can see in this diagram, you can see with each exposure we have reserved lines. What is reserved lines? Suppose we have created 3. There is a car damage, right? We have created, for each incident, we have created 3 exposure. We want to track down everything separately. We created 3 exposures. Now what we have to do is we have to create reserve lines. What is reserve lines? Reserve lines, the maximum amount which insurance company has kept aside to pay to the claimant. It will not exceed for that particular damage. It will not exceed to that particular, beyond that particular amount. If suppose there is a coverage of bodily injury and user has taken a limit of 1000 during the policy creation. Now, during the creation of the claim, user has broken his hand and his expenses is 500. But it has taken dozens. But he has created fake bills of 10,000. It's not like if he will provide the bills to the insurance company, right? It will pay the 11,000 to the claimant. Why? Because he has taken that particular limit amount. Insurance company will still analyze the damage. If it has the limit amount of 11,000, also it will analyze the damage. And it will come up with some amount that, based on the damage, this is the maximum amount that we are going to pay, no matter what is your limit amount. Your limit amount is 12,000. You are saying that these are the expenses. But based on our investigation, this is the maximum expenses which we have incurred, like that. Reserve lines is nothing but the maximum amount which the insurance company pays for each exposure. The max 1 exposure can have multiple reserve lines as well. Suppose you have created a reserve line. You are an adjuster. I'm working on a claim. And I created a reserve line based on the investigation. Now claimant came to me. And he raised an objection and he said that he gave me some proofs or some documents that, and I'm convinced that these documents are valid. Then I want to increase the amount of that particular exposure. What I will do is I will create new reserve lines. One exposure can be associated to multiple reserve lines. Yes, and once the reserve line is created on top of the reserve lines, all these things are connected. You can see here, incident is connected with exposure is connected with reserve lines, and reserve lines is created with check. Once everything is created, reserve line is created, exposure is created for each incident, then we need to create the check. Check means when we create a check, right, the amount will be deducted. Suppose I created a check of 200 and my reserve line is 500. The amount will be deducted from the reserve line and it will be applied to the check and it will be sent to the third-party system or the bank system. That bank would pay that particular amount to the claimant. That's how this whole picture works. There is an integration involved in this, but as if you are talking about the configuration, the internal connection, when a check is created on top of a reserve line. This exposure is a line and check are the entities which we use just to track down the payments, the claimant, and we have activity. Suppose on a claim, if we want, they want to have some investigation on the particular claim as soon as the claim is filed. And second step is after the investigation is done, we want someone to collect the documents or something. And third step is we want someone to create a reserve line. These are the set of steps, set of activities which we have to take care for that particular claim. Right? And each activity can have an escalation date or a due date. Right? And it can. Each activity can have any means. It can have a different assignee who is assigned to this particular activity. One claim can have multiple activities, and inside it there is an activity entity. There is a document entity which is having one-to-many relationships with the claim. This is simple, right? When a claim is created, the insurance company can ask for multiple documents, right? It can be provided directly by the claimant, or it can be uploaded by the CSR as well. It can be shared on an email by the claimant to the CSR, and it can be uploaded to the claim center or billing center. Claim center. Notes is also an entity and it is in hierarchy from the claim. What it will store, if we want to tag the claim and we have some comments that suppose I am working on some claim and I'm leaving the organization the very next day or I am on the vacation. Someone else needs to operate on that claim. What I will do? I'll go to the notes section, add the notes, add any comments. Whatever my thought process is on that particular frame, that the next user, whenever next adjust, whoever will be working on that frame, they will get all the comments on that matter. Matter is the case. Suppose there is an accident happened, right? It can happen that there is a coverage, third party liability coverage, right? There might be a situation that both the parties has gone to the court or the mistake that they are not willing to accept their own mistake and they are supporting it on each other, and might be they have gone to the court and filed a case against themselves. That can also happen, right? In that case, whose insurance company has to pay the third party liability coverage? Is it the person A or person B? It will be decided only when the case results come, right? Suppose person B is guilty. Person B is liable for all the damages. His person B's insurance company would be paying all the damages to the person. Otherwise, person A would pay to the person B. Some issues, some claims can have some matters involved in it. There can be one-to-many means. It has one-to-many relationship with the claims and critique. One claim can have multiple matters. If all the matters are resolved, then only the claim is processed and the money is paid. The check is created. If you want to see from screen perspective, right? Whatever we have talked about here, right? Contacts, incidents, exposures, reserve lines, activities, all these things, right? These will be listed. Suppose this is a claim file, right? This is the entire claim file. For each and every section would be listed here in the location group. You can see there is an exposure tab here which will list on all the exposures related to this claim. This is a claim file and there is a parties involved section. It will have all the parties which are involved in the claim. There is a policy section which will have the policy information on which the claim has been created. Litigation. Litigation is nothing but this matter, only the matter screen. It will list down all the matters which are there on the claim. Note section corresponds to this. Laws detail will contain the basic detail of the claim, like at what date, at what location the claim has the incident has been occurred, or that particular, on which date this particular accident has been occurred, right? All this information, basic information, would be directly stored in the claim entity and it will be displayed in the last details. This is how my claim file looks like. And we have a summary screen. You can see here we have a summary screen which will give us the overview of the entire team process. It looks somewhat like this. It will tell us about the status of the claim, lost date notice, date lost, location description. If we have taken any outside services, suppose we have taken a towing service from a towing company. The vendor name would be listed. If we have taken any outside services, all the exposures, whatever we have created it, can be associated. You can see here the exposure for exposure. Also, we can have multiple claimants. Suppose there are two people involved in the claim. One is the driver and one is who is the owner of the car. Suppose whatever damages has happened to the car, the company will pay the amount to the car owner, not the driver. But if suppose driver has injured himself, the insurance company would pay the driver directly. It would not pay the car owner for that particular damage. Similarly, what we will do is for these two coverage, we'll create two different exposures that we can assign these two things to two different claimants. You can see here there is a collision coverage. We have a claimant Robert Farley. But for bodily injury we have William Weeks. And for liability also we have William Weeks. The checks which would be created for these by this coverage and these two exposures, it will go to William Weeks. It will not go to Robert Farley. That is the reason why we create exposures to track down the payment to multiple payments. This is the work inside the work plan. All the activities is listed and each and every activity has a due date. If we open that, the video is automatically assigned or we have to give that matter. There are activity assignment rules. In the activity assignment rules, we have to assign the due dates and we have to assign the activities also which we want to, like suppose. I will give you an example. In the rule sets, there are activity assignment rules which will create the activity also. And it will create assigned activity also and it will assign the due date as well. We have a concept of activity patterns. We will go to the administration. I have opened the Screen Center application after a very long time. It might hang or it might take some time to load. Now in the administration, I will go to the business settings. Then I will see activity patterns. I can for each and every xt, suppose I want to create a different type of activity. For that I can define an activity pattern. Like suppose there is a type of activity, create email, create recovery email bill. Suppose I want to have this activity which will create the email for a recovery bill. I will create a new activity pattern and I will specify all these fields. The subject of the activity and the unique identifier code of this particular activity. Now I have this activity pattern dates, target days. Target is 2. 2 means suppose if I created this activity today, then the due date will be after 2 days. Escalation date. If you suppose I created today, then the escalation date is after 3 days. Means 2 days. That due date means 2 days 14th. Only 14th. It will has to be finished by 16th, but after 3 more days it will escalate. So 16th. On 19th it will escalate this activity. It will escalate on 19th or 17th. Actually, I am confused a little bit about it. I need to check it. I will check it and get back to you whether it is adding to this or whether it is taking it from the start. I will check it and let you know. But here is the place where we give the due date and the escalation date. And we can also define the importance also of this type of activities as high. Once we create the activity pattern, we can, from the coding side, we can create the activity. We can write the logic to create the activity. We can create a new activity object with the new keyword and with this particular activity pattern. And that activity we have to the claim. You create the new activity in Studio in the classes. In classes, and that is what is reflected in the admin screen. You cannot add anything from the admin screen. No, it is other way around. First is whenever I get a requirement for a new activity. What I will do is, from the admin screen, I will create a new activity pattern. And that I could define the subject description, I could define the due date, escalation date, all these things. But I should have a business scenario also. Business logic also when I need to trigger this activity. There can be a business scenario that when if the customer fights the claim and he is having the bodily injury coverage in his policy, then this activity should be created. We are defining the activity here, but we are not. Sorry, we are declaring the activities in the activity pattern tab, but we are not defining the business logic where we need to trigger this activity. You got no point. You can see when you don't see anywhere when it is created. When this is, you know that. But if I create this activity, this is how the activity is created. But when it is created, I haven't given that information that when trigger point of the activity, I have to give it from the code. I'll tell you. I'll tell you from the Gosses method or I'll show you from the existing code. Somewhere might be. We are calling that to be creating the activities. We will see if I'll see if there is any place where we are creating the activity. Work. You can see there is a work plan, rules, right? Here might be we are creating some activities. There is a claim object, claim entity object. I told you right there on one claim. It has one to many activity, has one to many relationship with the claim. Right. We have a claim object here, and we have a method create activity from pattern. We are calling this method here, and we are giving the activity pattern name, which we have defined in the admin screen. Well, claim acceptance. Here they are calling this claim acceptance activity pattern somewhere they might have. They might have. This is the code. This is the activity pattern code. As you can see, for each activity there is an activity pattern code right here. By activity pattern code, we are checking from the database and getting the activity pattern and then creating that activity out of that activity pattern and assigning it to the key. This is the statement which will create an activity for that particular activity pattern on top of that key. This is that statement. Please do like, share and subscribe to our channel.